Hello and welcome to our second to last Zoom Bravo behind the scenes series. At least we all hope so. For those of you, I think everybody knows me, but I'm Jeremy Franklin. I'm director of the Bravo Club. And we're so glad you're here with us to talk about Miss Holmes. But before we get started, we do have a handful of things that we want to tell you about. I know at least a portion of you who are here right now are here purely because you want to hear what the season is next year. And we've got a lot of exciting things to talk to you about. But before we get to there, I know many of you have been watching our Day of Giving campaign. In fact, everybody I'm looking at in this room gave to it. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. If you were watching this morning, you watched, I don't know, if you checked it about 15 till 8, you saw we were really winning, just winning. And I was in the middle of a workshop on Zoom and I got out at 9:30 and the rodeo had rallied 100 new patrons during the hour of 8 and 9. And so they beat us. But we do not feel beaten at all. We brought in 248 individual donors and raised by far the largest amount of any of the campaigns, and that was $17,394. So thank you, everybody. We really appreciate you all. That puts us about 3/4 of the way to our $25,000 endowment. And if you're thinking, well, that was our chance. No, that was phase one. We have a 3-phase plan for completing that scholarship. In fact, our hopes for that scholarship is that by the end of the decade, we've raised it to $100,000. So we've got plans in place, and you'll be hearing more from us next week about what we're doing for the rest of the month of April, which just so happened to have been Landon Jones's birth month. And so we're celebrating him all month through videos and memories from his friends and colleagues from across the country. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Mo, who is going to start us off by talking about the theme for next season. Take it away, Mo. Oh, you're muted.
It's always tricky. Hitting the thing. I just wanted to thank all of you. For your contributions to the Bravo Club. Chuck and Robbie, want to thank you in particular for your sponsorship, for letting us just have that, the music and cabaret, and for Naked Mole Rat. And it's such a huge gift to all of us. And of course, I want to thank Bob and Louise Hammonds as well for making this Bravo Club even as limited as it is this year, for sponsoring that. And really to all of you for, I really enjoy these convenings. I can't wait till we convene together in person, which is kind of what we're going to be riffing on with our season theme. This year it was Suit Up. And so we just decided to kind of goof around with that. And this year we're calling it Show Up. And the idea is that the shows are up and we're fully live this year. And we can't wait to get together in the community. And we're going to be showing up for you, and we hope you will show up for us. So that's our season theme. And then Jeremy, you want to talk about what the musicals are going to be?
Absolutely. So we're going to, part of what we've been thinking about with this show up idea is that none of us are in the mood for heavy shows. So we want something joyful and community and life affirming. And that's what we're aiming for this year. So to kick us off kick the season off, the first show will be a show from 1971, I believe, and written by Stephen Schwartz. It was actually Stephen Schwartz's first show. And this is going to be the 2012 revival version of Godspell. If you're fans of that show, the 2012 revival revised it just a little bit with Stephen Schwartz penning most of it. It is everything you know and love about Godspell. It just has been updated just a little bit to keep it fresh and keep it new. And we're excited to bring that version to you in the first slot of the fall semester. Then at the beginning of the spring semester, we're going to keep keeping it light and really community affirming with a delightful show. We've all kind of talked about it, about how it has a different effect on us, because at first, when you hear the title, you're gonna be like, oh, Jeremy, really? And my response to you is going to be, yes, really, because we are doing SpongeBob SquarePants, the musical. And before you sit there and think, that's the most ridiculous thing, I'll pass. I promise you that by the end of that show, I will have you all in tears. I won't have you in tears. We will have you in tears, because actually Mo is going to direct that show. We're really excited about that. I promise you're going to feel life affirmed by the end of those musicals next season. So to talk about the play for next season, take it away, Ben.
So in the same vein, when we were looking at next year, in this idea of really wanting to celebrate being back together and to do some fun, I really thought it was time for our actors to embrace a real farce. And particularly an American farce. And so we're reaching back to 1937 and doing what is, in my humble opinion, maybe America's greatest farce. A play that needs a bigger reputation. It's a play called Room Service from 1937. This is a play by Alan Boretz and John Murray. It was then bought in 1938 by the Marx Brothers, who turned it into their movie, Room Service. That may be where some people know this title. It's sort of a familiar chestnut of a story. It's a Broadway producer, a charlatan, a little bit of a charlatan con man Broadway producer who is holed up in a hotel with his entire cast and is trying to keep from being evicted while also trying to stay long enough to meet a backer and get his show up and running. If you know the old John Barrymore movie 20th Century, that's a similar idea, only on a train. This one's in a hotel. It is a laugh out loud funny, even when you read the script, show. And again, if you want to know the style, the Marx Brothers bought it and didn't have to do much to put themselves into the three sort of instigator roles in this one. So that's what we're going to do. Second, you might also know it. What's the name of that musical, Jeremy? It's Step Lightly. Step Lively or Step Lightly is a Frank Sinatra musical from the 40s that was also based on this same play. So I'm very excited about it. I've seen it done on stage. I think maybe the hardest I've ever laughed was seeing this play done years ago, and have been circling it for years and very excited to work on this with our students.
And then Mo's going to tell you what's going on with both the dance concerts and in the spring play slot. Take it away, Mo.
Yeah, so we're excited about in the kind of fourth slot, when we would normally be doing like Miss Holmes this year, we have this kind of an interesting idea we've been kind of baking on it. I'm not sure it's entirely baked, but we know what the concept is, which is that we're going to do 3 shows in rep for 2 to 3 weeks in the spring. And that will be both student and faculty directed work. And so during that 3 weeks, you can come see one show on a Thursday night and see a different show on a Friday night and a different show on a Saturday night potentially. So it's a concept we, of course, anybody in the theater that's been out doing summer rep before, and I ran a company doing this, that's kind of what you do. And it's a thrilling way for, I think, audiences to get a super packed experience of theater in the course of a weekend. So we're going to be doing that. And then Amanda sent me, I think we have some great ideas for the fall dance concert, which is going to be called Time to Connect. And Amanda wrote, as the students and I have been working and reflecting over the past year, our perspectives and relationships with time and connection have continued to evolve and change. The pandemic has continued to bring these juxtapositions, feeling the lack of time or loss of time and gaining time at home, between time passing both quickly and very slowly, as well as feeling the ache and loss of physical connection while being grateful for technology to connect us from afar. While we have continued to share in-person classes and rehearsals, we are so looking forward to the time when we can physically reconnect. We can't wait to explore how time and connection will change and influence our work as we approach the fall concert. So that's Time to Connect. And then in the spring, the concert will be called Finding Joy. We have all experienced loss, grief and difficulty over the past year. But hopefully we also have been reminded of both the little and big ways we can experience and share joy. We are looking forward to moving toward more of these experiences and find the joy in sharing our art in next spring's concert. And I think one of the things that they're excited about as choreographers is partnering again. That'll be fun. And maybe having more than 5 people on stage at a time, or 6 or whatever we've limited it to. So I know the choreographers are going to be excited about working on both those concerts. So that's our lineup for next year. We're really excited about it. And next, I want to turn it back over to Jeremy, and he's going to talk about a really exciting cabaret series that we are going to have going on.
So as many of you know, part of this creating the Landon Jones Scholarship has been renaming the Bravo Cabaret Series to be the Jones Cabaret Series. When we first did that, we had planned on expanding the cabaret series past the 2 individual cabarets. And then, of course, we all got locked down and that was out of the question. So we're excited to announce that next season, the series will move from being 2 cabarets to being 5 cabarets. We're going to begin by the first weekend after school starts. We'll be so excited to bring you Jill Van Brussel's new cabaret, which we'll be writing over the summer. As many of you know, Jill Van Brussel is our costume designer who frequently does everything. She performs, she directs, she's magnificent, and we're really looking forward. And if you didn't know, she's also a wonderful singer. So we're looking forward to bringing that to you to kickstart the series. We'll return to our student-based series or concert in October, and we'll be bringing back an idea that we didn't get to do when we got locked down, and that is Broadway backwards. I think that's not it. It's Unlikely Broadway. That's what we call it. And but it will be everybody doing all the songs that there's no way they'll ever get cast to do, but they can do amazing. So it'll be funny and powerful, and we're looking forward to bringing that in the Met. Then we haven't nailed down the date yet, but we will by September. And that's because we are working with our dear friend Beth Malone, who is a Broadway performer and Tony-nominated performer for her performance in Fun Home. Last year, when everything shut down, she had just taken a production of The Unsinkable Molly Brown, where she was playing Molly Brown, that had originally played in Denver, and it was in its pre-Broadway tryouts when everything got shut down last March. So we're trying to work out all the schedules because she's still trying to work out what the schedule is going to look like next year too. But she'll be with us sometime during the holidays. It will be a holiday concert in Robinson Theater. We'll be excited to bring that to you then. Then in January, I have a dear friend, Bonnie Montgomery. Bonnie is a opera composer / award-winning folk and country singer. She I'll try and keep this short, but we went to college together about a year after we graduated. She, long story short, had got a job teaching English in China, at one of the universities in northern China. But for reasons I won't reveal right now, she would not get on a plane. So she and her boyfriend drove to the West Coast and got on a freighter, a German-owned and Russian-operated freighter, and was afloat for 17 days on her way at sea to get to this place in China. The album of parlor songs that she wrote about this experience, she released in 2002, and then re-released about 3 months ago with vignettes from her diary writings during this trip. Because the memory of being stuck at sea and having nowhere to go, and the feeling of time kind of stopping and perhaps reality being altered a little bit, reminded her of what she was experiencing in quarantine. And so she and I are coming together in July and then later in January to develop a one-woman show for her based on that experience, and those parlor songs now play in late January. And then we'll be back down at our sponsors at Charlie Dwellington's in May for the best party of the year with Guilty Pop Pleasures with all the students there. And we'll do a 7:30 and a 9 o'clock show for that. So we're really excited to be bringing you some new works and some developed works as part of our season and our series. So, Mo, have I left anything out? I feel like we've given them so much information. Is there anything I need?
No, my ears are tired.
No one ever says that to me. No one ever says that.
No, they're not. They're not at all. I'm really excited about next season. I'm so excited to work on SpongeBob, which Jeremy kind of had to talk me into, but I watched some of those videos this afternoon of that musical, and it is just so darn joyful. And I think that's encompasses what this season's going to be like next year. So we're really excited about it. And I think that's all I really have, other than just, again, thanking you. We have a pretty good crop of freshmen that we're working on right now, getting in. We are offering them scholarships, and it's because of your generous giving. So thank you so much again. And Ben, I guess we're going to turn it over to you and have you share with us information and your thoughts about Miss Holmes.
Sure. So I know this is a little weird. Usually on Bravo, my assumption would be that you're all about to see the show. I know that is not probably the case now. I know some of you may see it in person, some may wait to listen to it. So you know, this was a project that didn't end up happening the way it was originally envisioned, but that so much of this past year, of course, has been like that. I'm like a lot of people, I'm a giant Sherlock Holmes fan. I hadn't really realized just what a Sherlock Holmes geek I was until we picked this play and I started doing my research and realized just how much, I've been absorbing over the course of my life. I've read all of the stories and seen lots and lots of the adaptations. There are probably too many to ever see all of, but I love it all. But I will say that also I won't go into the long, boring history of this, but one of the reasons we have this great play is because about 10 years ago, there was a lawsuit where it was actually trying to get Sherlock Holmes into the public domain where he belongs. But the Conan Doyle estate has been fighting that for a very long time. And about 10 years ago, there was a lawsuit which rendered most of the stories into the public domain, except for the later ones. And what that did is that opened the floodgate for all of these new Holmes adaptations, because up until then, you had to get permission from the Conan Doyle estate if you wanted to put Sherlock Holmes in anything. And so you might have noticed about 10 years ago, we had an explosion in new versions of Holmes. We had the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock on BBC, the modernized. We had the Johnny Lee Miller Elementary on, I don't know what channel that's on. We had the Robert Downey Jr. Film versions come out, and many, many others, and an explosion of stage versions, including Ken Ludwig's sort of farcical version of Hound of the Baskervilles, and just a real explosion of all these new versions of Holmes. And I remember when Miss Holmes came out, I was vaguely aware that it was happening. Christopher Walsh is a Chicago playwright, which was my theater city for a long time, and I didn't know him, but I'm aware of him and some of the people. And I'll be honest, I was very skeptical when I heard about this one. I think I'm often very skeptical when I hear somebody wants to take a new take on something classical, but I'm always game for it. So I'm skeptical, but game for it. So I got a hold of this play and I read it with probably more skepticism than I should have had. And I think because in my mind, somebody had made me think it was a farce, that it was a spoof of Sherlock Holmes as a woman. And then I read the play and absolutely loved it. I think I'm not going too far in saying I think it's the best stage version of Sherlock Holmes that I've come across. I really do. I think it's the best one. And the fact that it also turns Sherlock into a woman and Watson into a woman, that works so much better than not only does it work better, that makes it sound like I'm still qualifying. It improves the story in a way that I would not have anticipated. That it's not a gimmick. It's not just a modern flavor to it. It really does open up some questions about those characters and gives them roadblocks they wouldn't have had, and also in a weird way makes some of the idiosyncrasies of those characters make more sense in a way by putting them as outsiders really in a time period where they have extra hurdles to go up. It's great, and also then it anchors it in reality, things I didn't know, that the early 1880s is right when women were first allowed to be doctors in England. That is all of that's in the play is all factual. And so anyway, I fell in love with the play very quickly. I loved the way it spoke to our modern times without ever feeling like it was leading with message. I like, it's one of the great joys of genre to me. I love genre fiction. I love genre plays. I love genre movies. I love them. And what I love about genre is it gives you a chance to work within a framework that people understand and usually are very passionate and love, like an old-fashioned Sherlock Holmes mystery. But it gives you the chance to then put little tidbits of other information in there. And in this particular case, this play does have something to say about the modern world we live in, and the relationship between the sexes, and even some class distinction in there. But it's not hitting you over the head with it. It's very palatable in this wonderful mystery with these great characters that I've really fallen in love with. The female Holmes and the female Watson, they're just fantastic, and it changes the relationships we're used to, like the relationship with Holmes and Mycroft changes when all of a sudden Mycroft becomes the older brother to a younger sister. It's a very different situation. But that's all the play. Now I want to talk just a little bit about what we're doing with the play, which I think was what was unexpected. Obviously, originally, our intent was to stage this in a very traditional manner. And then when faced with the realities of COVID and with what the university needed to do very smartly to change our schedule, it left us with some problems to solve, with our schedule altered in a way that we had to think a little bit differently, and also thinking about the COVID restrictions in rehearsal. I'm sure all of you saw Cabaret and saw what Jess did and Matt did with that by creating this sort of separate area. It also gave them an ability to rehearse the show in a more efficient way, without doing it. If we're just being traditional, wearing masks, that's a lot of water to tread, waiting until Tech Week when we can get out of the masks and do it for real. And so looking at Holmes, I didn't have a great idea like putting it in the Hollywood squares like they did, which I thought was so great. And I was thinking a lot about what and I will say this was a conversation happening with everybody. I don't mean to make it sound like this was just me driving it. But as we talked about, how we could present this play in case COVID were to get bad. And of course, we were all predicting, kind of going into the holiday that things were going to get really bad for a while. I don't even remember if it was me that first threw the idea out there, but the idea that maybe we should try this as a radio show. We did Naked Mole Rat in person. We did She Kills Monsters as a film. Cabaret was in person. Naked Mole Rat, we also had the streaming option with that one. And we thought about, well, should we stream this like a play? And then a bunch of us got talking, and I don't know about all of you, but I've consumed so much audio content this year. Podcasts have become a real part of my life. I like how portable they are. I like things segmented in little chunks. All day today, I've been out in the backyard doing yard work, listening to podcasts. That's just what I do now. And so the thought was, well, maybe that's how we could release Holmes to people. Maybe, make it into a mystery that people could take on the go with them. And then we thought, well, why not also do the live version? So we could do a live version where we could have the audience watch us create this audio experience. And that's what we ran with. And it was something that was brand new to me. And I think all of our students involved had never really done anything like this before. And it was learning a new kind of vocabulary, learning how, I know that for the students, one of the things that we learned right away was, what is the vocabulary of this show? How do you as an actor who, an actor is used to, to doing a lot themselves on stage, if there's a bit of combat or even just a bit of physical business, picking something up, setting it down, using it to emphasize your speech, all of a sudden that's gone and you're speaking. And we have, Foley artists, which I want to get back to in a second, doing all of the live sound effects. So all of a sudden you're, in a way that I think is always true on stage, but we don't think about, in a way you realize that your performance is not yours. It is a shared thing. This play is happening in the minds of the audience, just like all plays. But when we do it radio, you really can't escape that. It's happening in their heads. And so we all have to work together. If I'm playing Holmes, I'm not playing Holmes by myself, because the people doing the Foley and the effects and everything, we're all pushed. All I'm doing is providing a voice. And that was a really, really interesting to watch our students work that way. We did this very quickly. I will also say we didn't spend a lot of time on this. It was done fast. And it was great to watch them kind of struggle up against this physical barrier that they had never had to push up against, and learning how to use their voices. I hope if you did see it, or if you're going to see it, or if you're going tonight, I hope that they're continuing to do what they're doing so, which was use the mics, and which we don't get to do on stage very often. We're usually busy projecting and trying to make us sound, and all of a sudden they can whisper. into the microphones and create intimacy with their voices, not just with their energy. And so that's been a lot of fun. But I want to say the real learning curve of this production, and the thing that has certainly been the most rewarding, and I think has been the thing that most of the audiences have walked away from, is the sound effect element of the show, is the Foley. And so if you don't know what that concept is, it's the idea from old-fashioned radio of somebody live. They still do this in film now, but just not done live. Somebody augmenting the sounds, making different sounds to make it show up for the audience. And I don't mean to put him on the spot right now, but we have Mike Leggett on this, and I also want to very clearly say that Mike Leggett really is the co-director of the show. It is a beautiful soundscape, and Mike really took the things that we were doing in rehearsal and the kind of half-baked ideas that I had, and roped them all together and taught our Foley artists. And we have two of them on stage, and I kind of think they're the stars. The two of the Foley artists on stage doing all these effects, and Mike is really just a bottomless sort of like pit of enthusiasm and knowledge when it comes to how to put sound together. And it was really so. But put it this way: if you don't like the show, you can blame me. If you like the show, thank Mike, because I really think Mike was the one who really made this thing come together in a way that is. And I want to also say, when you watch it, all the music tracks that go run through the show, those are not things that were just found. Those are things Mike put together and built. And it's really pretty amazing. And I don't know, Mike, if you want to jump in and talk about the Foley at all. I'm sure that people would love to hear a little bit, but I also don't mean to put you on the spot if I just put you on the spot like that.
Well, thank you, Ben. I certainly feel humbled as heck following that intro. Thank you very much. I think Ben gives me a lot of credit, but really, this was such a fun piece to work on. I don't know how it could have gone less fun for me. I'm a sound enthusiast, and so and I like Ben was saying about podcasts and just listening to sound. This has been such a year to kick back in isolation and have people feed you audio stories. I've really enjoyed that myself, and so it's been coming from a year listening to sound and wanting to do things of that nature. And as Ben mentioned, Foley, and if you're not aware, Foley has been around for a very long time. In older radio shows, The Shadow, and older detective-based stories, Jack Foley, where the namesake of Foley sound effects comes from, has started this wonderful track of creating these sounds, these invisible sounds that just help to enunciate the plot of the soundscape that you're listening to. And they're just wonderful things that you don't even know where they come from. I think one of the most classic sounds is the if you've seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, it's the two coconut shells that are banging together for the sound of a horse. Yeah, that sort of comes together. And it's such a wonderful sound, and when you hear it, you know exactly what it is and exactly what it's supposed to be. And there is sort of that little bit of forgiveness, I think, that you get with Foley as well. You know what it is, you know it's fake, and you're kind of okay with that. You just sort of roll along. And so it gives you a wonderful playground to just try things and see if they fit. And if you've seen the show, then you know that on the Foley platform, on stage, where our two wonderful Foley artists, Brittany McDermott and Austin Jensen, are performing, there's all of these tools at their disposal, and there's a Foley door where there's a multitude of hinges that make different hingy sounds, and a bunch of microphones up there that are specifically put there to pick up a door or to swivel around to pick up different things on their two tables, and building this playground and making these effects and trying to help Ben and the rest of the cast and crew make this show come to life in an audible sense, because really we live in a time where we don't need these effects anymore. If we need the sound of a door closing, or if we need the sound of a gunshot, you can just go online and you can buy a sound effect and pull it off and add it to the show. But since we wanted to make the show sound a little authentic, and sort of play with that 1940s radio style, really there's that visual, it's weird to say, but that visual audio component, actually seeing the people make the sounds, I think is tremendous fun. And seeing a little bit of that behind the scenes effect, I think is such a fun thing to witness. And so what we're doing with this as well is we've been recording every single night that we've been doing the show, as well as a few of the tech rehearsals as well. And so for the next couple of days, I'm going to try and piece all of these recordings together to make a decent sounding audio show as well, that we can release after we're all through with this. So yeah.
Thanks, Mike. And especially since I didn't warn you that I was going to ask you to say any of that. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, it's been really fun. It's really, and the one thing I wish we would have done different, if I was completely honest, is that I would have rearranged the stage to have had the Foley people right out in front, rather than the actors in front. I think I would have put the actors behind and had the Foley in front. If I had anything, if I could do one thing differently, I think that would be the biggest change I would make, because it's fun watching, and I feel like the audience wants to see what they're doing. There are a few effects that still blow my mind. There's the fireplace effect gets me every time. If I close my eyes, that's a fireplace, and it's a towel and a water bottle. And I still, that one, and the street scene. I took my wife to opening night, and I kept making her close her eyes at certain points, which I still kind of recommend. Is you kind of spend half the show with your eye. Whenever there's good, close your eyes, because you actually the fights especially are great with your eyes closed. And the first time we go to the street scene, I still don't quite know how they're doing it all, because it sounds like a recording. When you hear the sound of a busy street full of people and dogs barking and whistles and carriages, I know how they're doing it, and I don't know how they're doing it. Every time I hear that, I go, they're playing a recording. I don't get that one is so tight, and I can't take any credit for it. Mike and them, they worked it. It's great. I don't, but it blows my mind every time. So I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, from time to time, close your eyes if you go tonight. Just every once in a while, it's kind of cool to do how different the show becomes when you do that. Well, that's all I have that was anything resembling prepared remarks. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer. But otherwise, I'll turn this over to Jeremy to bring us home, Mr. Host.
Does anybody have any questions for Ben or Mike? I don't know if people have had a chance. David, I see you.
Yeah, you had to invent a narrator role.
Yes.
To weave it all together.
Correct.
What was that process like? Was it faculty? Was it the whole ensemble working together? Writing by a committee is always difficult.
No, that's me. That's something. This is the to my great shame. That was definitely the thing that I think everyone in the cast and crew and design team was waiting for, because what I had said originally was, well, we'll just have a narrator read the stage directions, and then as I got into it, I realized, well, we have to rewrite all of these stage directions to make them, it doesn't work to have because the stage directions are mostly written in insider language. Just things like, he enters, he exits, that's so boring. And then having to rewrite that, the scene on the street with Scotland Yard, in the stage directions, it says something like, because it's a busy street outside Scotland Yard, Inspector Lestrade enters, but he's actually exiting. So we have to rewrite that. So, Inspector Lestrade exits the building. So all that was me trying to honor the playwright by adding as few words as possible that were mine, but just changing tenses of things in order to make that flow. And the thing that he does, which was really great, and we tried this in a rehearsal just as an experiment, is every scene has a title, and that's unusual for plays. He titles each scene. And so we had the idea of calling each scene a chapter. And so breaking it up, and we found we really liked that. It made it feel like a serial, and it just gave us a reset at the top of every scene, which I liked. And he has these great titles: The German Plot, Springing the Trap. He has these great these titles, and we added those in. So that was I put it together, but it really was just a matter of changing tenses and then cutting it, because the sad thing for Sienna, who's fantastic, who's my narrator, is I originally thought we needed a lot more, and over the course of rehearsal, we just kept cutting them out, realizing that the sound effects were enough. So a lot of the rehearsal process was taking her lines away, or as we call it, giving her a raise, because less work, same money. So we kept giving Sienna lots and lots of raises over the course of this show. So she's doing about half of the work for the same money that she was doing originally. So that's how we put that together. Good call though. I forgot to mention that. Great question.
Well, I thought it worked really, really well.
I'm so glad.
In my own mind, I was envisioning, listening over the radio, because I'm old enough to have only listened to radio because TV wasn't invented at the time. And I could just see myself, listening in chapter by chapter, really being on the edge of my seat, wondering what the next episode was going to be. And then the way it was woven together with the Foley artists. So I really felt like I was able to create that mental picture in my head.
Oh, I'm so glad. That's what we were hoping for. And I told Sienna, who's so wonderful at this sort of thing, she really could have played any role in the show. She's such a wonderful actress, but no one can speak like her and read a story like that. I told her, I was like, I'm thinking about just paying her to come here and read to my daughter. I just think that she's got just such a great voice for that. She's kind of wonderful for that. We're lucky we had her, for sure.
That's so wonderful too, because when I saw it, I assumed that the chapters were what were created. That's so interesting.
No, those are the actual titles that he put in there, and they're so great, and no one gets to hear those normally. It's sort of like Larry Shue, who wrote The Foreigner. Larry Shue writes he's been gone for 40 years, but he writes the funniest stage directions. It's almost a shame that no one who sees those plays gets to read the stage directions because they're hysterical. And it's like someday somebody needs to figure out a way to put those in the play because they're very funny.
Hey, Ben, did these guys actually write another version? Or is this,
Yes.
It just feels like it lends itself to,
Yes.
yeah.
It's done. I haven't read it yet. So this is an origin story, and Christopher has already written, and I believe they were all set to do a production in Chicago this past year, but with COVID, I believe it didn't happen. So it's there, and as soon as we can, we at least need to do it as a radio show here.
I definitely think so. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's out there. I haven't read it yet, but it's I think that I know it's written, and I think it'll be available soon. So we'll have to make that live again in some way. Because I think in a lot of ways, the second half of the play is my favorite, and because the first half is setting it up, and the second half is going. I think if they write another play, it's going to be even better because now we don't have the burden of setup anymore. Now we can just go with the story, and that could be fun.
Were there any other questions, Robbie?
Just a comment. Y'all have done an amazing job of making some very sweet tasting lemonade out of your lemons.
Well, that is the best compliment we could get about this year. That has been the goal, hasn't it?
It has, because squeezing those lemons has been exhausting.
It does.
And
get in all the paper.
Ashamed to say it. Any other questions before we go?
Well, Jeremy, Ann and I would second Chuck and Robbie's comment, because we would talk to ourselves quite a bit about the ingenuity of each production, and living in COVID land and the COVID blues, and having to reinvent everything in our personal and professional lives, to see how inventive you were and how much fun it was to just kind of absorb that creativity amidst the morass that we've all been living through.
Thank you. We're honored. Thank you so much for saying that. Well, with that, I hope you will check it out next week when it releases as an audio play. I know I'm planning on getting it and listening it on my walk. And so I encourage you to do so as well. Thank you, Ben and Mike, for being here and talking with us about this beautiful production, and congratulations. Good job. We are almost to the end of this season. We have one more show to produce for you, and that, of course, is our Last Dance concert, which is Shifting Focus, and that will be playing the 23rd and 24th of April, so 2 weeks from 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks. And so 2 weeks from today, we'll be back with the dance faculty, talking with them about their concert. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bo, but that will be provided both live and digitally. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. And then I also will point out, and we'll talk more about it that night, I'm sure, but our student-directed dance concert, Raw, they'll be filming the night or the Sunday after we close the dance concert on Saturday night, and that will be available, I believe, the second week in May is what I was told. So we'll make sure and get information about that out to you. But with that, we say adieu and enjoy this beautiful weather. The great thing about seeing the show early is now on this beautiful day, you get to just enjoy how beautiful it is outside, right? So enjoy your evening. Thank you all so much for your support. We so appreciate you all, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a good night.